He is truly the bowl of truth. Kurt Metzger, welcome, buddy. How are you?
You could say the bowl of.
The
I'm like a
bowl, the
bowl
bowl.
of.
Yeah, you're like a bull in a china shop. You just do a gacker of
I
Adderall and
keep
just go
thinking you're
crazy.
saying
That's who you
bowl
are.
like you would eat cereal out
No,
of.
no, no. Yeah, yeah,
I've,
yeah,
I've
yeah. You're the
misinterpreted
bowl
every
of
single
truth.
day.
You're your cereal of truth, bro. And
Don't call me bowl. You're a
dude,
plate, motherfucker.
very excited to have him on. Again, Kurt came on the show, talked about his YouTube channel, his website, and everyone ran and checked it out. Kurt also talked about it on the Joe Rogan Experience, and we're here to have him. His website is Control Alt History. Please welcome Andy Hunt. How are you, brother?
Doing well. Thanks for having me on, man.
Andy, for those who may not be familiar with you, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and where our listeners can find you?
Yeah, so primarily on YouTube, got a YouTube channel, Control Alt History, and just kind of talk about interesting things from history. It's no real like set theme. A lot of people might label some of the things I talk about conspiracies, but a lot of them really aren't. They're just kind of stories that have been forgotten about and haven't really been covered, over the past few years. So we get into things like the disappearance of Howard Hughes and a whole bunch of other things, Tylenol murders from the 80s, and it kind of spans primarily in the 70s through the 90s, 1970s through the 90s, but we also talk about some older stuff too.
What I find interesting about what you just said is like old stories that people don't know about. And I would
Yeah,
tell you that what happens in society right now is that most people label anything they don't know as conspiracy.
absolutely.
Like, these are the datas are
Absolutely.
there. The data is
Right.
there. And you just don't know about
Exactly.
it. And in this time of being arrogant about your ignorance, you just you label it a conspiracy or whatever label you want to call it. If you're a normal person, you call it conspiracy. And then if you're a conspiracy person, you call it black pill, right? That's
Absolutely.
kind of how
Yeah.
it goes, right? So you want to label something you don't want to hear. Those are the terms. So yeah, man, I think that's something we go through right now. The stuff that Ian Carroll talked about on Rogan, I think everyone knew about, at least probably in the four squares on the show, the four rectangles. We all knew about it. And the fact that everyone's having this insane reaction to it is just nuts to me because, it's like Brian Callen, a good friend of mine. He'd always call me up going, "Where do you get your news from?" And I'm like, "The streets, dog. The streets are
Yeah.
talking." And it looks like you do some deep, deep dives. What got you kicked off on this? And then we'll get into some of the stories you wanted to talk about.
Well, I mean, as far as the conspiracies go, I guess like kind of looking into things happened like kind of when Trump ran for office the first time in 2016. I, always just watched the news and read the news up to that point, and then kind of when Trump ran, you just couldn't find any like unbiased coverage of it or anything. I mean, it was just constant negative articles, and that kind of like, yeah, I guess broke the spell of, believing the news or relying on the news for your news. And I think once that happens, you kind of have more of an open mind and you look elsewhere for stories or you look elsewhere to see if there's more to things that are being covered in the news. And so, yeah, I mean, it just kind of snowballed from there. And then a couple years ago, just kind of randomly decided to start making videos about some of these topics I was reading about in books and whatnot that I couldn't really find, much info about. A lot of there's at least many of the topics I talk about, like the video that I have on my channel is about one of the only videos on all of YouTube about that topic. So,
Which
and
topic
some of the,
is that?
oh, so, some of them. I mean, I don't like, for instance, the very first video I did was about the Vicky Morgan scandal in the 80s, and that's the one
Yeah.
you're talking about with Reagan. And like, I mean, that's like the biggest political scandal potentially of all time.
Yes,
And there
There
was
dude.
was
just
no internet. That's
nothing.
all it is. There's no internet. You had to
Yeah,
get porno to see things. You had to buy a Hustler.
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, if like 'cause back then, especially the only source for news was a newspaper, was, ABC, CBS. There wasn't even no cable TV back then,
Dude,
really.
that's how I know. That's why I believe that Kathy O'Brien book, because when I first heard of her, I told you I was young, and it was in a Wall Street Journal, and all these wild accusations about being used as a sex slave by Cheney and Bush and Reagan and all them. And
Yeah.
she testified in front of Congress, and he classified a bunch of it. or the
Yeah.
national security. That's, dude, I mean, just compare that to some shit now that's from Twitter. This isn't
Right.
like some Twitter wild accusation. This is like Congress sat and listened to this and listened to the name of these programs like Monarch.
Yeah.
So now, and as soon as the thing they're not talking, whenever the thing they're not talking about, that's what I want to hear. So that's why I like your channel, because I kind of do remember Gemstone, but not really. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's one of them things that you like, yeah, I kind of heard that. Think, oh, this is probably the thing that happened. Like as soon as you see it.
Yeah.
And then,
Yeah, man, it's
yeah,
it's always interesting to kind of look at because a lot of this stuff was, written and talked about and happened at least before the internet. So it's always kind of interesting to like re-examine it with access to the internet and
you
like
can see why
newspaper
they're shocked.
archives.
You can see why
Yeah.
they're so shocked because it's always worked before. The
Yeah.
same horse shit has worked.
Yeah, you're
And
totally right. It all
yeah,
worked
and this
before.
stupid internet that thing that besides whatever CERN gets out of it first, and then whatever they thought they could do, I guess some kind of crowd control with it. I think something backfired big time. Something really backfired with it, which is great. I don't know if Cube mentioned that happening, but you could see it's
There are
happening.
things in there that are very interesting. Obviously, everybody in the truther community is just up in arms hearing this right now. But again, Operation
what?
Trust. Well, that there were things in there that right now today is people are talking about openly was talked about in that what was going on in Ukraine servers.
Dude, I just found
Hunter
this out.
Biden was, dude, everyone knew about Hunter Biden, like real deep dives into Hunter Biden on Q, all that stuff. Again, to corral the paranoid and the conspiracy theorists into this kind of group over here. I
How do you know? Well, if
and Kurt, let me say one thing. I do believe that it was an attempt to see if AI could connect with people. It's written in a very much a way that has an AI feel to it. That
okay, wait. So I made a bad joke before. I don't know if I said it to you or not when you were here, but like, do you think they've been holding off on the disclosure of JFK and all this stuff because they were working on an AI to come up with a believable enough lie for everybody? Because
no,
human
that's
writer-
not what I think it is. I
They
think
need the
they're
computer
holding.
to tell them something because
No,
I
no,
don't
no,
want to tell them.
But Kurt, listen to me. When the Q drops happened, regardless of what you think about them,
I
it
didn't
was
think
be-
anything of them. Didn't look
right,
at them.
right. But when it did come out, AI was just a theory that was coming. Well, oh, AI's coming, it's coming, and here it is talking in this weird kind of not haiku, but whatever it was in the style they said it was, and could people read it, decipher it, what it was saying? You see, these people blew up just breaking down these Q drops in a way that I mean, part of me goes, they were beta testing AI on us to see if it could
It's like an
connect with
AI
us.
curator of certain facts mixed in with other stuff.
Yeah, and the people are like, well, all that stuff's out there. Like, well, what it did was it put it all
So
together.
wait, what did Q say about lizard people at any point? Anything? Nothing?
We'll save Israel for last. That's what it said. I think it was said that to be.
Well, I don't understand why Roseanne likes Q when she's very pro-Israel. I haven't really talked to her about it since.
She's an interesting person.
She,
Yeah.
Roseanne told me, I still have to ask her about it. I haven't seen her. She told me she was raised Orthodox Jewish and Mormon. And I go, that's weird. She goes, yeah. And I didn't understand the significance of that until now. But tying it with the Mormon Mafia thing, running, dude,
Yeah.
I would say look up J.R. Sweet. You can find his interviews from Idaho Mormon family.
Yeah.
MormonMonarch.org. I would read that whole thing. It's wild when he talks about it, corroborates a lot of the Cathy O'Brien stuff, but there's a bunch of stuff that
Really?
corroborates all these people. Those shooters
Yeah.
of the Trump shooters obviously are some kind of programmed. The one guy, Thomas Crooks, whether he's a patsy or the shooter, doesn't matter to me. His parents are behavioral modification therapists.
Oh my
know
God! Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
My God!
And that's why there's no fucking silverware and it's all scrubbed and blah blah blah. So his parent, he's got programmed. The other weird guy with the two different colored hair
Yeah.
that was mad about Ukraine. That's obviously another one of them, dude. The guy that shot the president of Slovakia. This one's eerie because maybe I don't know if I told you this last time, but President of Slovakia, we showed him on Jimmy's show talking about investigating Pfizer and not giving any more to Ukraine. I was like, but this guy wants to get shot. I made a joke like that. Okay. And 2 months later, he got shot by like a 72-year-old man with no history of violence. Yeah.
Huh.
I'm like, and then if I go look at the history of the presidents going back to
Oh
Andrew
yeah.
Jackson, they've been sending wind up Sirhan toys since
Yeah.
well before the CIA was invented. That goes
Yeah.
way. In fact, I think in The Man Who Would Be King, at the end when the girl bites the guy's face because she's been drugged by the priest. You ever see The Man Who Would Be King or read it? The Rudyard Kipling book about two Freemasons
No.
in Afghanistan to form to become kings of some Afghan tribe somewhere. And
No.
the guy declares he's God, and then this chick goes up who he's going to marry, and but she's been drugged by like whatever his priest class is to like bite him, and but those are ancient forms of mind control.
Yeah,
I told you last
sure.
time that
Yeah.
Dalai Lama, that's a kid that got repatterned.
Yeah,
Take you young,
100%.
brainwash a kid to think he's a guy who's now about 700 or 800 years old. So they've had the same president for like almost 1,000 years. Oh yeah, no, that sounds like a that sounds like way better than China. I'm sure it was better than when China was there. The fuck out of here.
No, I'm with you, dude. And I
Oh,
didn't
guess
know
who's in
that.
Syria killing Christians along with ISIS? The Uyghurs. The precious Uyghurs are working doing terror shit.
Yep.
Yeah, because it turns out there are a bunch of the way people talk about Muslims here or in England, right? You could safely talk that way about them in China. And it turns out they have the same issues because the same agencies around the world keep making wind-up toy terrorists and causing problems.